Archer Queen is a champion that can swing a match if you give her space. Archer Queen targets air and ground. That ability is what makes her feel scary. If she gets behind a tank or survives a trade, she can disappear, hit the tower, and come back swinging. In my games, the trick is to force her ability early or punish her right after it ends. To counter Archer Queen, you want to strip her advantage. High single target damage units like Mini P.E.K.K.A. or P.E.K.K.A. work well because they hit hard and punish the queen when she is exposed. Stun or reset troops like Electro Wizard or Electro Dragon are useful because they can interrupt her and buy your tower time. Swarm units also cause problems for her. Guard Skeleton Army or Barbarians can overwhelm her when she cannot reset or avoid damage. That often forces the opponent to waste spells. Positioning and timing beat her more than raw power. Bait cheap spells first, so you can drop a swarm when she shows up. Place a cheap distractor in front of your tower, and then send a mini P.E.K.K.A. behind it. Buildings also help by pulling her away from the tower and making her waste her cloak. Since she targets air and ground, you can also use air troops like minions or bats behind a tank to trade without risking them. Spells matter too. If she is alone and you have lightning or rocket, you can remove her for a positive trade, but those spells are expensive, so pick your moments. I often prefer to force her ability early with bait, then punish with high damage or stun. If you never let her build invisibility, she never becomes the scary win condition people complain about. Archer Queen is strong but beatable. Make her use her ability at the wrong time, punish her right after it ends, and use cheap distractions and a hard-hitting unit to finish her off. Play around her cloak and she will feel fair again. Golden Knight is a champion that can flip trades with his dashing dash ability. He costs 4 elixir, and his dash makes him close distance and chain between enemies if they are close together. That ability is the reason he can feel so frustrating. If you let him hit your tower, he moves faster than regular troops and connects for heavy damage. To counter Golden Knight, you want to take away his dash or make it hit something less valuable. Cheap bait units work well because they soak his dash and leave him exposed. Deploying weaker troops near the tower helps the Golden Knight chain his dash onto it. As soon as he kills them, he'll immediately dash to the tower. Skeleton's Ice Spirit or a cheap Spear Goblin can make him waste his ability so a heavier unit can finish him. Buildings placed at the right distance are great too because they can make him dash early into a structure instead of your tower. Single target heavy hitters also matter. Mini P.E.K.K.A. or P.E.K.K.A. take a lot of HP off him when he has used his dash. A well-timed hit after his dash can remove him before he connects again. Splash support behind a tank is useful when he chains hits, but that can be expensive, so watch your elixir. Dark Prince or Bomber help in many matchups. Air units are safe answers because Golden Knight cannot target air. Bats minions or even a baby dragon behind a cheap tank can force a trade without risk. Use kiting to your advantage. Drop a building in the middle to pull him away from your tower, then place support on the other side so he cannot chain through your whole push. Positioning is everything. If the opponent places Golden Knight behind a tank or with support, he becomes a real threat. Wait for him to use his dash, then punish. If he dashes through a building, he has wasted his ability, and you can swing the trade. Save one cheap distraction in hand so you always have a bait ready. In my matches, Golden Knight feels fair when players respect his dash and react correctly. If you keep 1 or 2 bait cards ready and a heavy hitter for follow-up, you will find his dash becomes a tool you can punish rather than a sudden death card. Play Patient Punish his ability, then counterattack while his dash is on cooldown. Do not panic when he appears, focus on timing, and make your elixir count always. The Skeleton King can look terrifying when he is marching down the lane with a full soul bar, but if you know how to counter him, he becomes one of the easiest champions to shut down. His entire strength comes from that ability that floods the arena with skeletons. If you deny him value before he can use it, he is just a slow-moving tank with mediocre damage. The trick is to not let him farm souls in the first place, and then punish him with the right cards when he tries to pop off. One of the absolute best counters is the Valkyrie. Drop her into the middle of the skeleton swarm, and she clears everything with her spin, leaving the Skeleton King exposed. She is tanky enough to stand up to him, and her splash completely deletes his win condition. The bowler works in the same way, but even more annoying because his boulder not only wipes skeletons, but also keeps knocking the king back. Pair bowler with tornado, and you will laugh at every ability activation. Swarm cards can work too if you are proactive. Skeleton Army can shred him before he gets his ability off, and bats melt him fast in the air since he has no way to reach them. The key is timing. If you wait until after his ability, then those swarms become useless. That is why players who know the matchup swarm early and force him to waste elixir. Air units also give him a hard time. Baby Dragon burns down his skeleton wave and chips his health at the same time. Minions and Mega Minion force him to walk helplessly while your towers support from behind. Even Musketeer and Archer Queen put in work by outranging him so he never closes the gap. Skeleton King looks scary in highlight clips where players stack up souls and pop his ability for a full army. In reality, when you have splash ready or air control in hand, he becomes more of a wasted 4 elixir than a real threat. With the right counters, he is not a king, he is just another tank walking into an obvious loss. Mighty Miner is a 4 elixir champion unlocked from the Royal Crypt. His ability Explosive Escape lets him teleport to the opposite lane, mirrored position, drop a bomb at his original spot, deal area damage after delay. He is intangible while escaping. To counter Mighty Miner, you have to think ahead around his ability plus his high damage output to tanks. One strong counter is using ranged troops placed in the center of your arena. Cards like Musketeer or Electro Wizard work well, because Mighty Miner must approach to attack once he surfaces the bomb, or after his lane swap, those ranged troops hit him while he is vulnerable. The bomb leaves a trail of damage you can exploit with splash or space troops. Swarm units are also good counters. Skeleton Army or Goblin Gang placed when you guess where he will surface can overwhelm him. Even though his ability gives him a surprise element, the swarms force him to waste hits or use ability early, reducing value. Also, ranged splash like Wizard or Baby Dragon help clean up his summoned troops or bomb damage aftermath. Buildings placed at center line such as Tombstone can help. He tends to be less effective when forced to attack through buildings that stall him or pull him off course. A center-placed Inferno Tower also helps because it pulls him and forces him into a less direct path. Even if he uses Explosive Escape, the re-entry can be punished with those center defenses. Knockback and stun effects can help too. Cards like Electro Wizard or Zappies are useful to reset or slow him down after he escapes. If you predict his escape, use these either on approach or right after his arrival to reduce damage he can deal and limit progression. In many games, I feel Mighty Miner is scary when left unchecked because of his threat of lane swap and bomb, but when I use ranged center cards and swarms, he loses value. His ability becomes less scary if you force him to use it early or mispredict where he appears. If you build a deck with cheap battlers and one solid ranged unit, you can often neutralize his push before it becomes too dangerous. Monk gets unlocked at the Silent Sanctuary. His ability Pensive Protection costs 1 elixir. When activated, he reflects projectiles back at the attacker and reduces damage he takes by about 65% for a short period. He uses a 3-hit combo. The third hit deals extra damage and knockback even to troops immune to knockback. To counter Monk, you need troops and spells that avoid or survive his combo and his reflect. One effective strategy is using melee units who hit hard and fast. Units like Mini P.E.K.K.A. can deal damage before Monk gets to activate ability or finish combo. If you keep pressure on him, he may not get the full 3 hits. Also, cards that can absorb or mitigate projectiles work well. Another strong counter is spells that are non-projectile or area effect. Spells like Earthquake or Poison are not reflected because they are not projectile attacks. They bypass his reflect and directly damage him or his supporting troops. So if Monk's ability is up, use those spells rather than something like Fireball or Rocket, which may get reflected or negated. Swarm troops also give good value. If you fill the area with cheap swarm behind a tank or distraction, you force Monk to either use ability early or take a lot of damage before his reflect protects him. This can sap his health and reduce value of his combo. Also, placing ranged support behind the swarm helps pick him off once his protection ends. Positioning matters with Monk. If you lure him to center or force him to cross the arena under fire from both towers, it limits his option to reflect projectiles, well, because many may come from side towers or both lanes. For example, building mid lane is a better option. Since the Monk reflects all incoming damage, he can't pick and choose what gets reflected. In my matches, when I prepare for Monk's ability, I often win the matchup. If you expect his reflect, you wait for him to use it or bait it, then punish. If you treat Monk like any big tank and overwhelm him with cheap units plus spells that ignore reflect, you can shut him down. Monk is powerful but beatable with the right play. Little Prince costs 3 elixir and is unlocked from Silent Sanctuary. His ability is Royal Rescue, which costs 3 elixir and summons Guardian, who charges forward, knocking back ground troops and then stays on the field. On paper, he looks like a mid-cost support unit, but his ramp mechanic makes him dangerous if ignored. The most reliable counter to Little Prince is fast swarm troops. Skeleton Army, Goblin Gang, and even bats can overwhelm him before his shots ramp up. Because he depends on building damage over time, he struggles when he is forced to retarget multiple cheap units. The swarms reset his damage and buy you time to bring him down. Placing swarms at the bridge or in the middle lane often forces him to switch targets and lose value. Another good counter is high damage units like Mini P.E.K.K.A. or Lumberjack. If you drop them right on top of him, he rarely gets more than 1 or 2 shots before falling. This is especially true if his big buddy is not active. Even when the buddy is summoned, you can kite it with an ice golem or a building while your heavy hitter clears the prince. Spells can also help. Fireball or Poison does not one-shot him, but combined with tower damage, it cuts his health fast. If you time the spell when his buddy is also on the field, you get even better value since the buddy is not very tanky. Lightning and Rocket are more expensive, but can finish him instantly if needed. Buildings placed at the center line are effective too. Cannon or Bomb Tower can pull his buddy while distracting Little Prince long enough for towers to shoot him down. He becomes less threatening when you deny his ramp mechanic. From my experience, the key to handling Little Prince is not letting him lock onto a tower. Once his shots stack, he melts defenses faster than expected. But if you distract him early and force retargets, he feels more like an overpriced ranged troop than a true champion. He punishes slow reactions but folds quickly to swarms or precise placement. Goblinstein has the ability Lightning Link creates an electric link between the Doctor and the monster, which shocks nearby enemies. The monster also drops an antenna when defeated, which still works with the ability. The ability costs 2 elixir. Use air troops or an early spell to handle the spawned threats. He is a mix of a siege and swarm champion that can create sudden pressure if not prepared. One of the best counters to Goblinstein is air troops. Because he only targets ground units and buildings, he struggles against air swarms like minions, bats, or mega minion. If you drop them once he locks onto a building or troop, they can shred him without taking damage. Pairing air units with a building stall like cannon is especially effective. Also, to stop Goblinstein, you must focus on the Doctor so he can't use his ability. Swarm units on the ground also work, but placement is important. Skeleton army or guards can slow him, but you must drop them before he activates his lightning link, which costs 2 elixir to activate. Zap or log cleans them up quickly and makes the push much easier to handle. If placed in the middle to kite him across the arena, they can cut him down before he reaches your tower. Buildings are strong answers. Inferno Tower is one of the most reliable, because the beam ramps faster than Goblinstein can break through. Bomb Tower and Cannon also provide stall time and chip damage, which lets your towers and supporting troops finish the job. Personally, I find Goblinstein frustrating because even when you kill him, you still deal with the electric links. It feels like he always generates some value, but if you anticipate his throw and prepare with air support or spells, he is much less effective. Goblinstein thrives on surprising players with sudden goblins on tower, but good defense turns him into an overpriced boulder carrier. Boss Bandit is a champion introduced in Clash Royale as a stronger version of the original Bandit. Boss Bandit costs 6 elixir, and her ability is Getaway Grenade, which costs 1 elixir. With this ability, after a 1-second delay, the Boss Bandit becomes invisible for 1 second, then teleports 6 tiles behind her original position. Unlike the regular Bandit, her charge is not just about invulnerability during the dash, but also about delivering significant damage that can flip a fight if it connects. The most reliable counters to Boss Bandit are defensive buildings. Placing a cannon, Tesla, or bomb tower in the middle of the arena forces her to charge into it rather than your tower. This not only stalls her, but also wastes her ability if your opponent chooses to use it. Goblin Cage is even stronger because the ramping beam melts her quickly before she can reach your tower. Swarm units also work well. Skeleton Army and Golden Knight can completely surround her and deny her dash since she struggles to target all of them at once. The key is to drop them early enough so they engage before her charge gets going. Rascals also chip her down efficiently when placed out of her dash range. Spells are situational but effective when combined with other defenses. Fireball or Poison weakens her enough that tower damage can finish her off. Lightning is costly, but if you hit her and another support unit, it swings the trade in your favor. Rocket deletes her entirely, but usually feels like an overcommit unless she is part of a heavy push. High damage single target units like Lumberjack or Prince are another good answer. If you place them directly in front of Boss Bandit, they can stop her dash and remove her before she generates value. You must be careful with timing though, because if her getaway grenade is active, she can knock them back and survive longer than expected. From my perspective, Boss Bandit feels oppressive when allowed to dash freely. She punishes misplacement harder than many other champions, and can punish one mistake with tower damage that feels unfair. But when you slow her down with buildings or swarms, she starts to look like an overpriced bandit. She thrives on momentum and surprise, but folds to careful defensive setups.